Welcome to Shit's Getting Real with Sax, where we strip back the filters and get raw about life, money, emotions, and business. This is your safe space for unfiltered conversations, the kind that make you feel seen, understood, and deeply connected to something bigger. No bullshit, no pretending, just real stories, deep truths, and the occasional existential crisis. Because life, it's messy, it's magical, and it's meant to be truly felt. Hello, my party people, and welcome back to another episode of Shit Getting Real with Sax. Me, your girl, your host. Hola. I am a little bit nasally, a little bit sick, a little bit under the weather. So if you hear me sniffle or if I sound funny, please don't believe me. Please, I beg you, don't believe me. I'm just recovering from a cold, okay? And we all get them. My body is run down. I have been going crazy for the last couple of weeks. As you guys would know from my last episode, I have had a lot on. And literally, as if my body just knew, as soon as the wedding that I was the bridesmaid of was over, I literally got sick the next day. My body just knew. It knew that it needed to hold out, but it also knew that the events were done and it needed the rest and it needed the recovery. So this week has really just been a massive focus on rest and recovery. However, there has been lots of exciting things that are happening in my world and in my life at the moment too, including the return, the resurgence, the just the return, I think. The return of a specific special girl that you guys would remember from all the way back at the start of the year, the one that I met in Koh Tao in Thailand. She has moved back to Perth and we're together again. But this time, like, actually for real, like, I'm literally going to ask her to be my girlfriend on the weekend. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling very loved. And it's led me into a lot of deeper thinking and a lot of new exploration, which brings me into the topic of the podcast today, which is actually identifying how our thoughts are conditioned and how we need to be putting ourselves out of our comfort zone to actually move through that conditioning and choose what it is that we want to think for ourselves. Because within this experience, like I said in the first podcast, and I was talking about how I could see all the different stories that were coming up in my head about this girl on girl relationship in comparison to everything else that I had lived up until that point, which was always male female relationships or straight relationships. And now stepping further into the relationship with her and actually being out and about. Hilarious because out and about, but like lol, out of the closet. But realistically, there has been so many things that have actually come up and been highlighted for me, and so many thoughts of the way that the world is conditioning us constantly to believe something that is common is normal. And there was a quote that, weird that it's getting brought up because it actually came up in my full moon circle that I just did this week as well. There is a quote that I heard from a podcast that I actually did back with Amy Mingen around contraception and the truth of contraception. So literally go back in time and find that if you haven't listened to it. But what she was saying to me was, just because something is common, it doesn't mean that it's actually normal. And we were speaking in the context of period pains, of endometriosis, of PCOS, of contraceptive issues, and all of these other things, and how just because it's common for people to experience period pain, it's common for people to experience signs of endometriosis, signs of PCOS, all of these other things, doesn't actually mean that it's normal for our body to go through. And the same thing equates when you think about thoughts or belief systems. There's so many belief systems that are rolling around that have been passed down through generation and generation and generation that maybe your family specifically haven't taught you, but society definitely holds the frame for. And realizing that just because these thoughts or these feelings or these stories that we tell ourselves are common amongst the wider variety of people or the larger consciousness, it doesn't mean that they have to be normal for you. It doesn't mean that that is the belief system that is the right or the wrong way. It just means that a lot of people have that frame of reference. Like, that's actually it. That's all it means. And I started deeping into this on one of the first days that this girl and I were out and about in town, because she was holding my hand as we were walking. And I've said to her, it's so strange because it's not a place of I feel uncomfortable, but I feel like I'm so hyper aware of everyone looking at us and staring at us or second taking us, like just that sense of attracting attention. And I'm so hyper aware that us being together and holding hands is creating this attention that I just don't ever experience if I'm walking with a guy. It it just doesn't exist. And I was questioning it because I was like, I wonder whether I'm hyper aware of it because it's happening more, or whether I'm hyper aware of it because this is a completely new circumstance for me and this is a new experience. And I'm actually pushing myself outside of my comfort zone because of the newness. Not that I'm not comfortable, because I'm so comfortable in her presence and I feel so loved and so accepted and so cared for, and I feel safe. I feel comfortable. So why is it that I'm being so hyper aware of everybody else's around me's perceptions or attitudes or beliefs or whatever it is? And we were discussing it based on the idea of, well, in society, what is considered normal is a heterosexual relationship. And it's normal to see a man and a woman walking hand in hand because that's what we're conditioned into thinking is normal. You see all of movies, like Disney movies, for example, all of the Disney princesses are with princes. So that idea of what is a relationship, even from such a young age, is a male and a female. That is considered the norm, the normal thing, because it is common, right? It's common because it's in all of these movies. It's common because it's out and about in society. It's common because the majority of us were born into a male-female parenthood. Like, our parents were male and female. So in our developmental years, from the ages of 0 to 7, where all of our sort of core belief systems and core memories are being created, including all of our negative ones, by the way, positive and negative, all of them, everything all in one. Also including how we walk, how we talk, how we eat, how we live, like everything that we learn about being a human and having a human experience is pretty much set into our brain by 7 years old. And then after that, our brain is just running off of the subconscious and it's just taking in the bits of information around us and distorting, deleting, or distributing into different sections. And so what that would look like in these terms or in this reference is if from 0 to 7, the majority of the relationships that you've been shown are a male-female relationship dynamic, then it feels uncommon or not normal to you to see a same-sex relationship, right? And so after 7 years old, when you're walking around, what will happen is you'll see a couple holding hands, walking together, and your brain, without you even having to think about it, will automatically take in the information through your eyes, process it into your conscious mind through your subconscious beliefs. So it'll look into your memory bank of, okay, what do we know about this? What is this situation telling us? Yes, they're not harmful because they're not at harm to us, so we don't have the fear, we don't have the anxiety, we don't have any scared feelings come up. You can feel calm, you can feel at peace, you can feel all of these things. And then also, where does it fit into the categories of what we already know about the world? And so when things come up that go against that belief or go against that feeling, it causes this friction between our unconscious mind and our conscious mind of being like, okay, but I know consciously that same-sex couples are completely normal and literally have been for since the beginning of time. But unconsciously, I'm still holding this frame or this reference or this conditioning from society that it's unnormal. And therefore, I have the fear that the people around me are paying more attention to me. Right? And firstly, it really ruined the experience for me because I wanted to feel lovely and I wanted to feel nice, but that friction was being caused in my brain of my conscious mind knowing I want this and I like this and this is how I want to feel versus that unconscious conditioning of being like, you need to feel uncomfortable because it's not normal. And how ridiculous is that? Because even me, who grew up with lesbian aunties, gay uncles, all of my mum's best friends were like gay or lesbian. I've grown up around a queer community my whole entire life. Like my whole entire life. So me in myself, I have so much less conditioning than someone who say grew up in a strongly religious household where queerness was really deemed as sinful and deemed as bad and had all of these like evil traits to it. The conditioning for them is going to be so much more locked and in stone and really solidified, which creates the friction when people who have that belief or who have been conditioned, to believe that belief, experience attraction for the same sex. They have this friction that creates that feeling of shame, right? And realistically, the only person who actually is in your mind and in your brain and in your thoughts and in your feelings is you. And so you are actually the only person who is in control of what you want to be conditioned to believe. And between the ages of 0 and 7, you didn't really get a say in what you were conditioned to believe. But now, as an adult, you actually get to change what your conditions are. You actually get to change what feelings and what emotions you feel in specific moments, in these points of discomfort or being pushed out of your comfort zone. You can change it to be anything that you want. And it actually does get to be really simple. Firstly, just acknowledging the fact that you're having that thought in the first place, rather than falling down the shame spiral of, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I shouldn't be thinking this way. I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be doing that. It could have been quite easy for me in that moment to shame myself into, I'm not meant for this relationship. This isn't meant for me. Maybe I'm not strong enough for this. Maybe it is weird for me. Maybe I don't feel these things. Or opposite to that, I could have gone down the other spiral of, oh my God, I'm such a bad person because this is how I feel and no one on the earth feels this way but me, and I suck and everything's going to be so bad for me and I can't tell anybody these things because it's so bad that I thought this and that I felt this way. I'm so sorry, what? Like, you can't control where your thoughts are going to take you. I can't control the way that the feeling arose of being in an uncomfortable situation. And like I was saying, it wasn't that I was uncomfortable in the situation. It was just that the situation was so new that those uncomfy feelings were just coming to the surface. And I didn't have that uncomfortable feeling when we were kissing. I didn't have that uncomfortable feeling when it was just the two of us at home by ourselves. I only had that uncomfortable feeling when I started to be hyper aware and hyper focused on everybody else paying attention to us and to me. And it was that sense of that vulnerability of being seen and possibly being judged, and realizing that in that moment, those thoughts that were coming up for me of, oh, everyone is looking at us because it's not normal to see a same-sex couple together, even though my whole entire 26 years of life, I have lived with seeing same-sex couples together, and never once have I noticed a thought of, oh, that's not right, that's not normal. Like, this is the craziest part about the conditioning and about the unconscious mind. We think that we understand ourselves and the world so extremely well on a conscious thought level, but really there is so much that is actually creating the way that we move through the world that is hidden so deep in our unconscious that the only thing that we can do to realize it is continuously put ourselves in these uncomfortable positions so that we're getting brought to the surface what we actually don't agree with, but is conditioned into us. And so the first thing to do is actually just acknowledge. Just acknowledge that that thought is coming up. And for me, that came through sharing that and voicing that this is what I was experiencing and these are the thoughts that I'm having at the moment, and I'm finding it really confronting, and it feels strange for me because it's not logical in my brain, but it's still happening. And that acknowledgement allows the body to go, okay, we've done something. We've done something right, because that conditioning, that thought, that belief system, that feeling, whatever it is, that has actually kept us safe for a period of time. And looking at this example, it's kept me safe from those feelings of being seen and being judged by others. That unconscious belief of, no, I'm straight and a straight relationship is what is normal, versus the experience of being in such a loving, kind relationship with a female has brought up that feeling of, oh, wow, I can see how I only ever really went down the straight path for so many years, even though I obviously do have attraction to females, because look at this. I love this one. And it is a case of right person, all of those sorts of things too. I'm not saying that like I regret not dating girls earlier, because I don't. I'm so happy with the experience that I've had up until now. And I never felt like I was missing out on anything or like I needed more. But now I'm in this place where I'm so happy where I am that I can see how that belief of it not being normal, or the condition of society of it being easier to be in a heterosexual relationship, has really conditioned the way that I had been walking around the world previously. And it had kept me safe from judgment. It had kept me safe from feeling seen and feeling like people had things to say about me. But it's actually not the way that I want to do life. And I don't want to move through this relationship continuously feeling uncomfortable or holding myself back because of that fear of being seen, because of that fear of rejection, because of that fear of judgment. And so the next process, after acknowledging and seeing where this has kept you safe and where this conditioning has actually served you in your life, a gratitude, if you will. The third point is to realize that there are so many untruths within this belief system, and really identifying what consciously you do not agree with that comes with this belief system. So for me, it was that point of being like, well, that's so silly, because I've watched same-sex couples be so deeply in love with each other and so committed to each other and have such a beautiful life for so long, that a heterosexual relationship isn't normal to me. And consciously, I don't feel like I believe that. And then you can go at it from all different factors. Obviously, I'm telling you my story and my example, but this can be related to any thought process and any feelings that you're having. This is just the example that I'm giving you. There will always be not truths or untruths that you can find to pick apart that story and pick apart that belief. And so pick it apart as much as you can, and find all of the evidence that actually supports the belief that you want to believe, that you want to have, that you want to be conditioned into, right? And that brings you to number 4. Step 4. Decide what it is that you actually want to believe. What is it? For me and this situation, it was that people aren't judging me. People are actually so happy for me to see me living my true, authentic life. And even as I say it, there's such a massive smile on my face, and my whole body fills with so much warmth, and I feel like excited for my future. And if that is the frame and that is the reference, and I can create that feeling inside of my body, then every single time now that that uncomfortable feeling of fear comes up, I know that all I have to do is mantra it out and create a new belief system, create a new conditioning, one where everyone is so happy for me and everyone loves to see me living my best authentic self. And everyone's just happy to see me in love. Like, Go girl. Yeah, you. Love that for you. And you can apply this to literally any thoughts that you have. I remember I used to do this same process, which is hilarious now looking back, because I didn't realize specifically at the time that this is what I was doing, but this is what I was doing. I used to think this same process or do this same thing when I would be reconditioning the thoughts that I had about my body image. And I remember same situation where people were looking at me and I had that fear of judgment and that fear of, oh no, they're thinking I'm fat, they're thinking I'm this, they're thinking I'm that. And then one day I was like, you know what, I'm actually sick of this. I'm just going to believe that every single time someone looks at me, it's because they think I look incredible and they love looking at me because they're so inspired and they love my body and they're obsessed and they want it for themselves. And now look at me. I'm actually radiant in my body all of the time, because instead of holding on to this previous conditioned idea that only skinny girls are pretty, that you need to have a thigh gap, that you need to have a flat stomach, that you need this, that you need that. Instead, it was like, wow, I'm actually beautiful the way I am, and my body is perfect the way it is, and everyone is in love with me. And to be fair, once I actually changed that belief in my head, and once I started running the belief that everybody is obsessed with me and that's why they're looking at me and they're saying such nice things about me, people actually just started complimenting me more. Like, your brain rewires in a way that the information processing starts creating evidence to believe your belief. And so there was probably so many people that were complimenting me before, but it was just going in one ear and out the other because I didn't actually believe it about myself. But once I changed the way that my unconscious mind was being conditioned to think and to believe, suddenly the information processing center was getting brought in by my senses and selected to get categorized into the belief that everybody is obsessed with me and in love with me and I'm beautiful just the way that I am, which further strengthens the belief, which further strengthens the confidence, which actually makes the other belief, the old belief, the belief that you're changing, less and 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 less. Until all of a sudden, you don't even remember a time where you felt like that or you thought that way, because your new belief system is actually so set in stone and it's so implemented in your unconscious mind that even your conscious mind is processing the world through that new belief. You have the ability to do this process at any point in time, anywhere. And honestly, I would highly recommend starting with writing it out and getting used to it. Now, because I have been doing processes like these for so many years, and I do work so closely with my conscious and unconscious mind connection through meditation, hypnotherapy, breath work, all the rest of it, it actually has become really easy for me. And I create the energetic feeling and I feel the switch in my brain happen almost instantly. However, it wasn't always like this. There was previously a time where I did have to sit and really discover and journal out how this was feeling. So if that's you, just start with one belief that you know creates that feeling of fear, creates that feeling of shame, creates that feeling of hurt, of anger, of sadness, of whatever it is that feels negatively like it's weighing you down. Find the belief, acknowledge the belief, find the gratitude of how that belief has kept you safe up until now. Safe, well, happy, whatever it is, up until now. Find all of the untruths or not truths about this belief and then decide what it is that you actually want to believe. And when you decide what it is that you actually want to believe, create a feeling inside of you. Like, take a second, breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Tell yourself the belief in your head and feel into how that belief makes your body feel. And then when all of those lovely, warm, bright, light feelings come into your body, anchor that shit down. Remember it energetically in your mind and in your body, that exact feeling. And you can even anchor it through touch, physical touch, just holding a specific place on your body, anchoring it deep, deep, deep into your unconscious mind, because your body and your unconscious mind are always connected. Always connected. And it could be as simple as when you feel all of these feelings inside of you, when you're creating this new belief and you're telling yourself this new belief again and again in your head, and you're feeling all of the feelings just get bigger and brighter and feel so much freer and happier, you can just hold your wrist and just gently squeeze it. Just really gently squeeze it and then let go. That in itself is already anchoring that feeling into your body. It's anchoring that new belief into your unconscious mind. And all of a sudden, you walk around with a much lighter plate, because the belief system that you're looking out at the world with is actually in alignment with your truth and your authenticity and your life. Not what the Disney princesses told us, not what the religious gods told us, not what the teachers at school told us, not what our parents told us, not what society projects out onto us, all of these fear-based campaigns, but actually what is true to you as a human, as a soul, as a person who is living in this existence. Because your truth doesn't have to be my truth, and my truth also doesn't have to be your truth. Like I said, this example that I'm giving because I just experienced it in the last 2 weeks. So it's fresh and it's real and it's raw, and it made me realize, wow, there is actually still so much things that I don't even know about myself. There is always something more to do, but you actually have control. And it actually gets to be really easy to live a happier and healthier and more aligned life. Awareness, gratitude, truth finding, anchoring. It gets to be easy. So I love you. I hope you go and have a fabulous, fabulous, fabulous week this week. I'm so excited to hear about all of the things that you guys are going to change about yourselves. Well, your conditioning, that sounds a little bit better, I think. That sounds a little bit more progressive, just a little bit better. Anyways, if you guys do have any questions about anything that you heard within this episode or any previous episodes, please remember to reach out, because I am going to start doing question and answer podcasts where I do go through some questions with answers. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Anyways, I'm going to go have some dinner now. Shepherd's pie. Yummy for me. I love you all. As always, be kind to yourself and be kind to others. Mwah. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.